Hi, and welcome to the Baker Senior Show, where we're going to be talking today about Medicare, the frequently asked questions that all seniors need to know. Hello, Mr. Baker.
Hello.
How are
Hello.
you today?
Wonderful. It's a great day. It's a great day.
It is. So we've got a lot of
Mhm.
questions that people have about Medicare, and I know that there's got to be like the top 10 questions that most people have when they come to you and say, Mr. Baker, I'm going to turn 65 soon. I need to know about Medicare.
Mhm.
So what's the number one frequently asked question that people have about Medicare?
The number one question is, what do I do? That's the number one question. That always, I'm turning 65, so what do I do? So I take it from there, and then I start asking the questions about what's their situation, what's their health, whether they're employed, whether they're retired, if they've been retired for a long time, what's the situation? So I'm I'm like a doctor or an attorney, maybe just ask questions so I can get in my brain where they are and then make possible recommendations from there. So yep, a lot of people just don't even know, they're way over their heads and just and they hear things from their neighbors and from their relatives and from this and that. So what I do is soothe them down, calm them down a little bit, and start asking them questions. And by doing that, I'm able to determine what's the best route for them, or if they even have a route. So sometimes they don't even have a route. So we'll see after I've finished
Well, what is the
doing
first
the
question you
interrogating.
ask them?
Well, the first one of the first questions is, what do you have now as far as health care? And that one fits me into a block of of an area that I know I can deal with that. They have nothing. They've never had anything. They've never had any health insurance. They don't, they have no clue. They don't have any company coverage. They don't have anything. And I get that occasionally. So I deal with that from that basis, and then move forward from there. Some people have been on group coverage and they want to stay on group coverage. So what do I do? So I tell them what they need to do in order to stay on their group coverage. And some people, you know, don't have any resources. So then, if they don't have any resources, then I have some recommendations for them. So I have an answer to pretty much everything that they can offer. So it works from there. And once I've determined where they are, then we can start off and move forward.
What are they afraid of, Steve? What's the fear when they come to you and they say, "What am I supposed to do?" What are they fearing?
Well,
Lack
what
of
they
knowledge or what they
no
heard from
no
their neighbor?
mostly they fear the confusion, because it is confusing. And sometimes they'll say, well, my neighbor did this and my brother-in-law did this, and so on and so forth. And have a roundabout way of telling them that just forget what your neighbor has done, forget what your brother-in-law has done. Let's talk about you. And so I say, what is your situation? What kind of health coverage do you have now? If you have none, then we need to know that. If you've had some a while back and you've dropped it, then we need to know that. If you have an employer participation, and you're in a part of an employer group, then we can talk about that and see what your options are there. So it's just a matter of orienting them, and then I can say, forget about what everybody else has been doing, because your brother-in-law is in a totally different situation than you are. So let's just talk about what the situation you're in. So it works pretty well. And
Okay, uh, right. Well, I'm interested in learning more about what people their misconceptions. Okay, so if they have questions, you have the answers because, like you said, you ask them what their situation is, they tell you, and you figure out the best solution. And
mhm,
it just seems to me that when you get other people involved, so the government has this program called Medicare.
mhm,
And from what I've learned from you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be 65. It could be that you are, you have medical problems that they deem is worthy of the Medicare, no matter what your age, right? Your
mhm,
disabilities.
mhm,
And so I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of different opportunities for confusion. So it's
mhm,
no wonder people come to you and they have this your deer in the headlights look and say, help me, help
mhm.
me. I don't understand because my neighbor said this and my wife said that and my son to me do this. So they come to you and you help figure it out. I'm not. Is it getting worse and worse as time goes on? Like more and more cases?
Yes. Well, you just brought up one point. And some people, not a lot of people, but some people are on Medicare disability, and that puts them in a totally different category. They're under 65. Maybe they're only 43, but they're disabled from an industrial accident or from an automobile wreck or whatever kinds of things that they have. So then I take them down the road of Medicare disability. And so that's when I'd say, forget about your brother-in-law and your neighbor and your relatives or whatever. Let's talk about you and your situation. So then I give them some options there, and they have to go to a board, and then board designates them as disabled or not. It just depends. Once they have that designations, they really can't get in part of Medicare for 2 years after the designation, and a lot of people don't realize that. So you've got to just stay where you are with your disability, and then in 2 years we'll talk about what kind of coverage you could possibly qualify for. So it's way different from somebody turning 65. Way
Yeah.
different.
And Steve, who would know about that? Because everyone, no one has ever said that to me. Until I met you, I didn't realize that Medicare covered somebody that was under 65. So
Hmm.
who would know that? Who would know that that's a thing? Is it the doctors? Who's supposed to tell people that they could qualify for something?
Well, it's sort of, unfortunately, it's sort of catch can. Hopefully, they've been pointed in the direction of a we'll call it, for lack of a better term, we'll call it a welfare agency, state welfare agency, and they go there, but they have to go. They have to actually go there, and nobody can replace them. They actually have to physically go to the place where they need to be in order to get the help that they need. And I can, point them in that direction. And I've seen cases where they take advice, and I've seen cases where they don't take advice. So there they are in another year, 2 years, or 5 years. They're in the same place they were before because they didn't take advice. So that's and then I work with. Sometimes I don't work with them. I just advise relatives or whoever their carekeeper is to shove them in the right direction so that they can at least get in line for disability. And once they're in line for disability, then after 2 years, and once that's received, official disability status, once they receive that, then in 2 years or 24 months, which is the same exactly, 2 years or 24 months, you can then look at going on to Medicare, but not until then.
Interesting. Okay.
But once
All
they're
right.
plugged in, then the group, the agency will tell them, will notify them that they're now eligible for Medicare benefits.
Got it. And it's called Medicare. It's the same program.
Yes, it's the same program. If this is just part
Same
of the
program.
overall Medicare
Okay.
program.
That's very interesting. Okay. So what's another frequently asked question that people have when they come to you?
Well, basically, it's amazing that I get kind of the same thing over and over again, and I don't know how I end up with the question, but one person recently, and I've had it many times before, is that do I really need a will? That's a question. A lot of people say, I hear I need a will. I don't have a will. What do I do? I mean, and then again, I tell them, well, you need like I did, and my wife, we needed professional help in order to steer us in the right direction. And I indicate to them that you need to seek an attorney who's qualified in that direction and can give you some help and point you in the right direction. I'm not qualified to do it, but I can point them in the right direction. And I get that question a lot. And I guess a lot of, they listen to ads
Isn't that
on the
interesting?
news. Yeah, right. So
That
I,
is interesting.
I'm able to point. It's not what I do, and it's not part of my genre of things that I can offer people. But it's a question that I get a lot. Do
That's
you really need a
interesting.
will?
Yeah.
But
Well, okay.
yeah, I
I,
can
I
tell
can
them.
understand that. You know, when you're turning 65, it's just a human thing here in the United States to start thinking about, okay, well, I'm 65 now. I need certain and different things. Okay. I'm
Mhm,
retiring from my job usually. I'm getting on Medicare and, um, it's the, not the end, but it's the beginning of the end. It's like there's certain things that we know we have to take care of, you
mhm.
know? So unfortunately, some people need it before then.
Right.
But most of us are trained to start thinking about what's next when we turn 65.
Mhm.
I do have another question, especially now with COVID. What happens if somebody steals my Medicare card or I lose it? How do I get a new one?
Well, it's very easy to do. The number is 1-800-633-4227. 1-800-633-4227, and that's the Medicare Central Nerve. It's basically the nerve center for Medicare. And another way to put it is 1-800-Medicare, 800-633-4227.
I have it
And
up on the screen. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 1-800-633-4227. And the reason I said that like that, Steve, is we do have a podcast audience that does not see what we're saying. And so if they're in their car, they have to pull over, or they can go back to look at because we're on YouTube and we're on Facebook. You, there's always down below the videos. We do have all the things, the links and the things that we're talking about.
mhm,
So Medicare, there's always somebody there. I've heard you say this before. No matter if it's a holiday, no matter if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you can always call the 800 number and get questions answered.
mhm, right.
So
Exactly.
that's what they would do if they needed another copy of their Medicare card.
Hmm.
Now, does this number, this 1-800 number, do they let somebody know that your card has been stolen or whatever? I mean, how do you, sorry to ask this, but what about fraud?
Well, fraud is another area, altogether, and it does go on. So you got to make sure. And what I advise all of my clients to do is to keep their Medicare number separate from their card. They can carry their card with them, their red, what we call the red, white, and blue card. But I have hundreds of clients, and I'll bet if I did a survey of all of them, almost zero would be able to recite their Medicare number, especially nowadays since it's not your Social Security number. So now it's a jumble of numbers and letters, and it just makes almost no sense. So they need to keep that number separate away from wherever they carry their card, because in case they lose their wallet or somehow otherwise lose their Medicare, the when you do call a Medicare, the first question they're going to ask you is, what is your number? And you're going, I don't know. It's on my card, and I lost my card. So I advise people to keep the number
No.
separate in another location, so that when they do contact Medicare, they can give them that number and they can pull it up on the computer instantly.
Steve,
Uh,
if you are their representative, do you keep a copy of their number?
I have it on file. I can find them if they're my client. I can do it. I can find it.
Another reason to have Steve's phone number, which is 832-754-3292. And I highly recommend this. I say it every show we have, which we have a show every Tuesday morning. Every show I tell you this. You need to write that down somewhere, laminate it, and put it on your refrigerator
Hmm.
because between the 1-800 number and Steve's number, there's not much else that you need. I mean,
Right.
people ask Steve about wills. He's just a wealth of information, and he's not going to say no. He's not going to answer. He's going to steer you in the right direction. He's going to let you know what it is that you need to do. And I know this because I
Hmm.
know Steve and I have worked with Steve. I have several clients that are friends of mine that have now worked with Steve, and everybody says the same thing. You're a wealth of information. You've experienced so much, and you're very free with your knowledge. You're very kind, and you're very welcoming, and you'll answer just about any question they have.
Hmm.
What are some of the other questions people come up with, Steve?
Well, another question that I have, and it's not so much the individual calling me. It's a close relative, like a sister or so whatever. And they asked me. I had one the other day from a client, and he happens to be an attorney, but has a different kind of practice. He doesn't really delve in the kind of stuff that we're talking about. He happens to be a divorce lawyer, so he deals in divorces and stuff, and that's a whole world unto its own, and that's where they stay. But this particular attorney had a sister who lived in a town away from where we live, and he said, "I don't know what to do with her because she may or may not have any income. I don't know, but I'm trying to find out if she does. Can you help me?" And I'm going, well, okay, here we go. And then I explained to him about Medicaid and how it works. And he goes, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." So here I am educating a lawyer who's in another world himself about Medicare and Medicaid. So and he's one of my clients. But if someone has, they need to find out if they qualify for Medicaid. And
Okay, and
Medicaid,
that is a different program than Medicare,
it
and
is a
it
different
deals
program.
with a lower income or no income.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it differs in one major respect in that it's a separate agency or separate situation in every state. And
Oh, okay.
so each state is totally different. So you have to determine what the name of it is. Some states call it Medicaid and some states don't. In the state we're in, it's called Medicaid. But they need to be prepared to stand in line because that's just the way it is. That's the reality of the situation. But you do need that designation of Medicaid because there's a lot of different hoops you've got to jump through in order to make sure that you're qualified for Medicaid.
Got it.
Once you get that designation, then you can go to someone like me and I can help you. But I can't help you until you have both Medicare and Medicaid. You
Got
have
it.
you have to have them both in order to participate
S-
in the program.
Okay. Speaking of income, will Medicare premiums be higher because their income is higher, or is everybody on the same level?
Well, and I've talked about this many times. You've got two sides, just like the two frames that you're looking at, your side and my side. My side is the side of Medicare supplements, Medicare traditional Medicare, and you then in order to take advantage of the other 20%, you get a supplement. Your side is the advantage world, and the two don't mix. Whatever. So the answer to your question depends on which side you're on. And if you're on your side, the question is, can I get, if I have almost no income, or if I have Medicare and Medicaid, what's my situation? That puts you in a designation where you can get Medicare and Medicaid along with your health care. We call them D-SNPs. Somebody who's possibly disabled, somebody who's in a special category, and they're treated in a special way in the Medicare world. So it's a segment. It's a segment all to its own.
Okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have another question. I'm just full of them today. Um, if somebody is a veteran, do they sign up for Medicare Part B, or is the veterans insurance going to cover it?
No, they need. They definitely need to go ahead and get their Part B. And the reason they do is because whether or not you're a veteran, if you try to apply later, there's going to be a penalty, and sometimes it's a major penalty for putting off the Part B. So whether you're a veteran or not, go straight to and here's another little twist that people don't understand. In order to qualify for Medicare or get enrolled in Medicare, when you reach 65, you go to the Social Security office. And I get
I find
answers
that
like,
fascinating. I mean,
yeah,
as an individual who's never been exposed to Medicare except for to listen to you, my friend, uh, I didn't know. I had nothing. I had no idea that Social Security was in charge of Medicare. It
they're
doesn't
not in
even make
charge.
sense.
They're not in charge of Medicare, but that's where you go to enroll in Medicare. But they're not in charge of Medicare. The people there are trained in how to get somebody started in Medicare. But after it's started, they're finished. They go back to their Social Security work. It's the federal government. That's the way the government works. It doesn't make any rhyme or reason. I say, and I try to explain it 2 or 3 times, and people keep asking me, why do I have to go to the Social Security office? I don't know. Why is the sky blue? It's just yeah. Don't know.
It just seems weird, you know? It's like
It
Social
is.
Security and Medicare. I mean, it just doesn't, I don't know. It
It
just seems
is.
weird.
And now if that we're in the middle of the pandemic as we talk, and it even confuses it more because you can't go to the Social Security office.
Right.
So and sit down and talk to an individual, which people are more comfortable with because you're talking to a person who knows the steps to take in order to get them in Medicare. Now you have to, call and get an appointment by phone appointment or whatever in order to make sure that you're there. And it's nice to have somebody with you who's a relative or possibly a friend who can listen to the situation, and they could say, "Is that what she said? No, that's not what she said. She said this and whatever." So
Okay.
it's a real ordeal for a lot of people. They
Yes.
think it's going to be
Yes.
simple. They think it's going to be simple, but
Well, I
it's
know
not
it's going to be
necessarily
simple
so.
for me because I have you to handle it all for me.
Right, right. Or I don't handle it all, but I can point you in the right direction, and I
Right.
do
I
that.
know that you'll take care of the other details for me and tell me what to do.
Yeah,
I
right.
have one final question, and uh, you may or may not want to answer this. I don't know.
Okay.
um, but I was just wondering if marriage has anything to do with my benefits, because Social Security, a spouse can get somebody's Social Security if they die. Does that have anything to do
Mhm.
with Medicare?
Uh, no, no. Medicare is like totally separate. In other words, if you've got a husband and wife, or whatever the arrangement is, you got whatever it is, Medicare is totally individual, just for me. My spouse or my wife
Okay.
has a totally separate program. So this is Medicare now. Social Security, mm, maybe different, maybe not. I don't know. That's they have their own rules, but as far as survivorship and all of that sort of stuff, so you have to delve
Okay.
into
Well,
that.
good
But
to know.
Medicare is individual, individual,
Okay.
individual.
Okay. Good to
So
know.
yeah.
Did we answer all the frequently asked questions, or was there another one that you wanted to lay on us?
Well, you know, strangely enough, the most frequently asked question is, "What do I do?
Yeah.
How do I get started?" And that's where I
Yeah.
start. That's where I start asking the questions, and I have
There
to,
you
I have
go.
to, I have to determine. One answer doesn't fit everyone, obviously, so I have to find out what is
Obviously.
their situation, and then I can go from there. And it's
Okay.
almost like, I don't compare myself with a doctor or anything like that, but doctor goes through the same process. Before that, the nurse asks the same questions. So you basically have to say, okay, do you have headaches or do you not have headaches? If you do have headaches, you go over here. If you don't have headaches, you go over here. So it's like, does it hurt here? Yes. Well, does it hurt over there? No. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk
You go
about
over
this
there
area,
and you go over there. Yeah. Okay.
and it's pretty much the same
All
way.
right.
So,
Well,
over the
good.
years, I've developed enough experience that I pretty well know what area to avoid talking about, and what area. If they already have their A and B, then I do know they don't need to go to Social Security because they have that. It's done. It's set.
Right. Right.
So
You can take them to step B.
take them to step
Yeah.
B or C.
Yeah. Or
So
C or D or
yeah,
E. Yeah.
right,
There you go.
exactly.
Well, thank you for all this information, Steve. It was quite interesting, and I learned some stuff. I do every week when I talk to you, and no wonder everybody's confused. There's just so much information. But I knew that there were some frequently asked questions that we hadn't covered before. Some of it we have, and some of it we haven't.
Uh,
So thank you, and thank you, audience, for being here remember that you can reach out to Steve anytime. He'll accept your call, your text, and set up an appointment. You can talk on Zoom. We're here live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Central Time. Call Steve at 832-754-3292 and set up a time when you guys can talk. Ask your questions. I know that he has the right answers. Thank you, Steve. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.